So it's very important to study the teachings, right? It doesn't have to be Buddhist teachings. Meditation is not a Buddhist phenomenon, although a lot of people think it is. No. Meditation was practiced by all mystical, fundamental religions. Mystical Christianity involves meditation. Sufism involves meditation. Taoism involves meditation. Kabbalah, mystical Jewish, Hebrew involves meditation. So meditation is consistent among all religions. Why? Because the meditation allows you to realize what the religion is teaching, that without meditation, the only way you can experience a religion is through faith and through belief. But this offers a direct experience, right? And so this is an invitation to be awake to reality and to experience reality directly, so that you don't have to believe in God, you can know God. You don't have to have faith in the truth, you can experience the truth. And when the truth is experienced, it changes the view you have of the world, it changes the view you have of your life, it changes the view you have of everything that's happening. Why? Because it changes who you are, it changes who you are. You come to realize that behind the mask, behind the persona, behind the personality is a timeless awareness that is your true nature. And this timeless awareness that is your true nature is where the real happiness exists, the real peace exists, the real satisfaction exists. How can that be? Well, how it can be is relatively simple, right? That when you realize your true nature, and you realize your true nature is not physical, is not material, that in itself changes everything. Because now you're a spirit, you're a spiritual existence instead of a personality or a physical existence. You're a spiritual existence. And the spiritual existence is an existence that's timeless and changeless. And the spiritual existence is never affected by what's happening in the world of change and time and space. It's not affected by that. You can test it out for yourself. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. All you have to do is notice that there is an awareness where you are. There's an awareness there, right? And if you pay attention to that awareness, if you notice that awareness, if you look at that awareness, right, it's possible to see by turning your attention toward that instead of away from it, it's possible for you to see that that awareness is simply here. That's all you can say about it, is that it's here. In fact, one teacher called it the isness. It is. That's all you can say. I am that I am. That's all you can say, is it's here. But the fact that that's all you can say says everything, right? Because it says that it's unaffected by anything that's happening. It's like the space in this room. It's unaffected by our presence. It's unaffected by anything that happens. Somebody could get murdered here and the space wouldn't flinch. Somebody could have sex here and the space wouldn't care, right? The space is like your awareness. And that's why the space is freedom, because when you realize your true nature, you're free from the effects of living in the world. That's what they mean when they say, I am in the world, but not of the world. That's what they say in the introduction to the Course in Miracles, when they say the summary statement for the entire Course in Miracles is, that which is real cannot be threatened, and that which is unreal does not exist. Therein lies the peace beyond understanding. And then the rest of the Course in Miracles is the explanation of that statement. But you don't have to study the Course in Miracles if you get the statement. You can just enjoy reading it leisurely instead of thinking that it's going to get you anywhere, because you're already where the only possibility is for you to be. You are already in the only possible place you can be, and you will always be in that place. And what is that place? Here, there, and everywhere is where you are. So, since this is New Year's Day, it's appropriate to talk about time a little bit, right? Because, you know, time is the thing that people complain about not having enough of. Yes. Very seldom do you hear people complain about having too much time. No, it's always not having enough time. Well, why is that? Well, because the personality has to justify what it doesn't do. That's why it complains about having enough time. And that's one of the things people say about meditation. Well, how's your practice going? Oh, I haven't really had enough time to do it, especially during the holidays. That's interesting. I thought you had the same 24 hours I have. I thought everybody had the same 24 hours. Are you lacking time somewhere? Is there a time bank that you have to go withdraw some time? This is all conceptual bullshit, right? It's the way the personality plays around with everything to manipulate the situation, to justify the fact that it is addicted to so many things. It's such a habitual creature, right, that it has to explain and justify itself in terms of why it's not taking care of business, why it's not taking care of what needs to be taken care of, right? Which is your peace of mind, which is your satisfaction, which is your happiness, right? But we live in a world that offers you so many options to deal with that, right? Yeah. We all know the answer to happiness, don't we? It's money. It's a no-brainer. Everybody knows the answer to happiness is money. You can buy time with money, can't you? Yeah. So don't worry about doing anything but making money and see how that goes. I mean, if you pay attention, if you just look around in the world, it's not hidden. The fact that people with money are just as miserable as anybody else, if not more miserable, right? And it's worse for them because they have to act like they're happy. They don't want anybody to find out the money didn't make a difference, okay? So my recommendation for you on New Year's Day is to, people make resolutions, New Year's resolutions for the new year, right? Here's the resolution that will be the end of resolutions. Right? If you make this resolution, you will be free from the yearly resolution bullshit. Because that's a setup for failure. It's a setup for failure because most people are incapable of acting their own best interest. So what are you making a resolution for, right? So my suggestion is to make one resolution and that'll take you for the rest of your life, right? And that resolution is to be resolved. Instead of improving, instead of making a resolution, just be resolved. What's that mean? Well, what is resolved? Resolved is your true nature. Resolved is that which doesn't change, right? Resolved is free. Resolved doesn't need an improvement project. It's perfect. Be perfection and then live from there, right? That will outdo any New Year's resolution. Be perfection. What does that mean? Be the awareness that you are. Right? And then don't change. Right? See, I'm saying the opposite of what everybody says this time of year. Change. Improve. Right? I'm suggesting to you there's a higher order of things, and in that higher order of things, there is no change. Don't change. Live as a perfect awareness. And if you live as a perfect awareness, which is what you already are, so I'm not asking you to do something, I'm asking you to notice something. You already are a perfect awareness, right? So live as that perfect awareness, and then that which you think needs to change to have a better life, right, will change in relationship to perfection. Will change in relationship to the experience you're having that's already perfect. And when you're living your life that way, the light of that awareness shining on that which is not workable starts to have an effect on it in the direction of it starting to be more workable, starting to be workable. So just by being your natural state, by being what you actually are, you will outdo people who are trying to improve. You will outdo people who are trying to improve because your ability to improve is highly accelerated. Because you're not trying to improve, you're being who you actually are, and that which is not in alignment with that which is not in alignment with that, will start to come into alignment with that if you consistently live as that. That's how it works. So that the problems you have been struggling with or coping with or trying to change, right, clear up in the process of life itself. In the process of life itself. You're not trying to change. You're just being who you really are. And as who you really are encounters circumstances, right? The way you're being in those circumstances allows for a workable situation. The way you're being. And the way you're being is not coming from your conditioning. The way you're being is coming from your true nature. And your true nature is responsive, not reactive. Your true nature can respond to whatever the circumstances are that occur in your life. And it can do that freely and it can do that powerfully because the circumstances are not determining you. When you're being what you actually are, circumstances are not determining you. In the conditioned state, which is the condition that most human beings are living in, circumstances are determining them. What's happening in their life? If you ask somebody, how are you? They'll tell you the circumstances that are determining them. That's what they're saying when they tell you how they are. Right? They'll tell you either good circumstances or bad circumstances, and that's determining the experience they're having. When you wake up and you realize that your true nature is not circumstantial, your true nature is not a circumstance. Your true nature is the consciousness that within which circumstances occur. But it's not a circumstance itself. It's the consciousness or the awareness within which the circumstances are occurring, like the space in this room within which what's happening happens. And when you make the switch, when you identify with reality, when you identify with the truth, right, then the circumstances no longer determine the quality of your life. Happiness becomes available regardless of the circumstances. Peace becomes available regardless of the circumstances. Your mortality is no longer a factor. Your mortality is no longer a factor. That's why in the second book that I wrote, it's called Dying to Live. When you understand the truth about death, you realize, when you understand the truth about death, when you see clearly what the truth about death is, the first thing after that is you will realize it's time to die. The first truth after that is you realize it's time to die. Why? Well, you might as well get it over with. You might as well get it over with. Because the death I'm referring to is not the death of the body, it's the death of the personality. And guess what? The personality was never born. What you believe you are, what you think you are, never actually existed. It came into existence when your parents gave you a name. It came into existence when you looked in the mirror and believed what they said to you when they said, that's your body. That's when you came into existence. When a baby's born, right? When the baby's born, the body of the baby is there. The person is unborn. The person doesn't yet exist. The baby's in a natural state. The baby simply being the awareness that the baby is. It doesn't have language. It doesn't know about time. It can't suffer because it hasn't learned to suffer the way we have. Right? So it's existing in freedom. And if you look at a baby's eyes, you'll see the eyes of God. Right? The eyes of God. Clarity, openness, receptivity. Right? Immediate response to whatever's happening. If there's discomfort, if there's hunger, there's crying. If there's no hunger and there is comfort, there's smiles. Immediately reacting to what's happening. The baby and life are in harmony, they're in harmony. And so this is the natural state. And we lose that when we learn that we are a physical body and we're a personality and we exist in time and the game is on. Your value and your worth and the quality of your life will be directly connected to your performance. You learn that the first day in school, don't you, in kindergarten? You show up among the other kids, right? And now the game is on. Who's the best kid? Who's the brightest kid? Who's the most beautiful kid? What kid has the nicest clothes? What kid gives the right answers to the teacher? Right? So you're starting your conditioning now, and you're learning that the world's a competitive reality, right? And you've got to compete with the rest of the world. That's a human life. There's no way out of it, by the way. That has to happen for you to be in this game we're playing in time and space. But the problem is there's a third act to this play. Right? Once you are established as a personality, right? Once you have a foundation as a personality in the world, right? Then the next thing to get free from the suffering that will go along with that, because suffering will go along with that, if you haven't noticed, right? To get free from the suffering that goes along with that, the third act has to occur, and the third act is called waking up. The third act is waking up, meaning that you are now realizing that there was a natural state before the personality came into existence, and now you're realizing it's possible for you to return to that natural state again. But it's not the same as the baby now, right? Because you've experienced the life of the personality, okay? But it's even better than the state of the baby now, because you know that there is a reality that you can lose yourself in, that you can play the game of life, right? But now, because if you wake up and you realize that that's just the piece you're identified with on the game board, but it's not really what you are, right? When you realize that, and you realize, therefore, if you identify yourself as the awareness itself, which is unaffected by circumstances, right? Now you can dive into the deep end of the pool of life. Now you can abandon yourself to the experience of being a human being, because nothing can happen to you. You can take the rest now. You can afford to open your heart. You can afford to love now, right? Because although there may be hurt and pain and emotional realities in the life of the human being, right? The life of awareness is love itself. Love itself. Unconditional love itself. What does that mean? It means that everything is seen to be me. Everything is seen to be one thing, non-dual. Everything is seen to be non-dual. Everything is seen to be the same. So my awareness and your awareness are one awareness. We share that awareness, right? This is the non-dual experience. This is the possibility. This is the life you can live at any time if you break free from identifying with the conditioning. The conditioning will still be there, right? You're not going to disappear, right? The conditioning will still be there, right? But you'll be free to enjoy the ride instead of being stuck on the ride. You'll be free to enjoy the ups and downs of life, because now you're surfing the waves instead of being hit by the waves. So that's the possibility that these teachings and practices offer. So look and see, would you be willing to make one resolution for the rest that will resolve your life? One resolution that will resolve your life. Be resolved. Be resolved as the changeless. Be resolved of that which is timeless. Be resolved as the consciousness that you are, so that you can fulfill on the blessing that this life is. The fulfillment of the blessing that this life is to realize your true nature. And if you realize your true nature, you can let go of death. You can die anytime you're ready, right? Because that which you thought was what came into existence was nothing but a program that's playing in your head. That's all it is. It doesn't exist anywhere else. And because that's the case, you can die to that. And what I mean die to that, I mean simply means stop identifying with that. That's all. When you stop identifying with that, that's still there, but you're not that. And so the suffering that would have to go through is no longer happening for you. And yet it's still there, right? And not only is it still there, but the life of that person who is awake starts to become a fulfilled experience. Your behavior changes. You start to be easier to get along with. You start to be able to express love. You start to understand what love actually is. What love actually is the experience you have of giving. Love is actually the experience of giving, and that's the only time that you will experience what actual love is. As the Beatles said, the love you make is equal to the love you take. See, I know I got my job done because the personality is afraid to say anything. If the personality says anything, it'll reveal itself, you know. Personality is always trying to survive. That's its nature. It's always trying to survive, right? So it's not going to say anything that might be seen as being wrong, because that would be a threat to the existence of the personality, right? So you keep quiet. You don't want to put yourself out there, because if you put yourself out there and you get rejected, or you get told that's not right or that's wrong, right? You'll feel invalid, right? Sure. That's why you didn't raise your hand in school when you were a kid, because you're now in the mode of personality, and the personality, in order to survive, it has to avoid being invalidated. So if you're invalidated, you either have to stay quiet to avoid invalidation, or if you are invalidated, either fight or flight. Good luck. A resolution is a final resolve, right? Resolution is a final resolve, right? So the final resolve is the place you're going to come from. The resolution is to be what you are. The resolution is to know that the power lies with the awareness that you are. The resolution is to have the final answer be answered and recognize it's a yes. It's a yes. See, the awareness never says no. The awareness says yes to everything all the time. So your life becomes a yes life, okay? Intention is just along the way, there are intentions, right? So you have the resolution to be who you are, and then the expression of that takes an expression of having an intention here, an intention here, an intention here, an intention here. So that's all, as you're working the workability, intentions are one of the tools you use to have an intention. Does that speak to that? Unless you establish a meditation practice, it will be a fancy. Unless you establish a meditation practice, it might be interesting, but it's not going to make any difference. Because you're not going to get out of the conditioned reality you're in by just doing this once in a while, right? You've got to practice it the same way you practice getting into the trouble you're in. The same way you practice getting into the trouble you're in, you got to practice your way out of it. How did you practice getting into the trouble you're in? Well, in the very beginning, they told you your name and you practiced identifying with that name, didn't you? You were practicing. You were practicing being your personality. You were practicing living life the way you were told you were supposed to live life by your parents and your society and all the rest of it. You were practicing believing your physical body. So you have to unpractice that. You have to pay attention to the reality that you are not a physical body and keep remembering that, keep remembering that, keep remembering that. And meditation gives you an opportunity to be quiet, to be still, to be relaxed, so that you can see the truth and be a seer. Be a seer. Make contact with reality. And as you do that consistently, it starts to replace your conditioning. It starts to replace your conditioning. The conditioning will still be there, but it will be balanced by the truth. Time will still be there, but it'll be balanced by timelessness. Personality will still be there, but it'll be balanced by your true nature, awareness itself. And as the Buddha said, it's the middle way. The middle way. He's talking about balance, right? Not extreme in one direction, not extreme in the other direction. So you walk the razor's edge in life. You know who you are, and you play the game. Full out, because you can. There's nothing at risk anymore. So I hope that you make that final resolution so you can begin to experience what life would be like awake. All 3 times, you'll eventually be meditating every single day. And if you do that, you'll start to experience a different life. So enjoy the rest of your holiday.